Good evening, everyone. Ian Patrick here, and tonight I have quite the romance drama for us. Tonight's movie review is The Dark Angel, and it came out in 1935, and it's actually a remake of another Samuel Goldwyn production that came out in 1925 called The Dark Angel. So 10 years prior to this. I haven't seen that one, but the movie stars the great Fredric March, who clearly I'm sort of on a binge of watching his movies right now. I just can't get enough of his acting, and I'm just really enjoying his films. It has Merle Oberon, and she plays the love interest, Kitty. And it also has Herbert Marshall. And Herbert Marshall, he plays the same character he plays in so many other movies, sort of the second leading man usually, or the male who gets cheated on, or he never gets the girl. He's always so pathetic. And anyway, he plays Gerald in this, and Fredric March's character's name is Alan Trent. So the movie, also want to note about Merle Oberon's character. She plays sort of this all-American girl, and honestly, I don't think the way she looks and acts really fits the all-American girl look. In fact, I'll talk about that later in the review. But I really think someone like Olivia de Havilland would have fit this character a lot more. But it's interesting because the director of this, Sidney Franklin, he originally wanted Leslie Howard to play the leading male, Fredric March's character. But Leslie Howard was having an affair with Merle Oberon's in real life, because Leslie Howard was married, and he dropped out of this movie as soon as their affair ended, and he wanted nothing to do with The Dark Angel. So we got Fredric March, but I'll get into that later into the review. So the movie started out pretty slow for me. In fact, I would say about the first 20 minutes or so, when I'm like looking at my phone or sort of looking around, that's when I'm not really too involved in the movie yet. And I was nervous that this was going to be just another forgettable romance movie. But man, I was totally wrong. So I will talk about the start. It starts out where this little girl, she's living in this perfect house and she has the perfect life. Seriously, she like has a little like a carriage with her own pony horse to carry her wherever she wants. She's kind of a brat, and she goes over to her best friend's house, and she has two best friends, and the girl's name it's Kitty when she's little, and she goes to her best friends, Alan and Gerald, and we cut scene to this scene where they're at a picnic. And I want to note that there's some magical realism concepts in this movie. For instance, when they're at this picnic, this huge gust of wind goes by when one of the boys is talking about the future or fate. I can't remember exactly. He's telling a story, and this huge gust of wind comes by, and there's this magical feeling to it. And I'm such a sucker for magical realism, not only in movies but also in books. So then we fast forward to Kitty waking up in her bed. It's like the very start of the movie, and I think they filmed this in a very clever way. She wakes up and she does sort of the same routine that she did when she was little, and of course now it's Merle Oberon. She's grown up, she's beautiful, and I want to note that this sort of shows how life changes a lot for us, but many things actually do remain the same. For instance, we go through the motions. Like, we have so many changes in terms of relationships or jobs especially, but a lot of things that we do or do with family remain the same. And they really captured this well, because at the start, for instance, the family had a dog, and it was a young puppy and very energetic. And then later, the dog is old, and it's really cute and lovely. It was a lovely touch, I would say. So then she goes over and she sees March and Fredric March's character Alan and Marshall's character Gerald, and of course they're these young, dashing men, and they're getting ready to enlist to go fight in World War I. And of course she's nervous about that, and we're wondering, so which man does she truly love? And she's deciding herself. She's not sure. But of course, we have a good idea that it's going to be Alan. It's going to be Fredric March, because Herbert Marshall, oh my gosh, he's always so pathetic with the women. So I would say that the more this film went on, the more I grew to like Kitty. At the start, I didn't care for her that much. I thought she was a little spoiled. She didn't fit the all-American girl look to me. But I liked her more and more as the film went on. And honestly, Alan's character, I thought he didn't have a whole lot of depth to him. In fact, he was sort of this, it's weird seeing Fredric March play this kind of goofy guy. You'll see he plays a prank on her, and he didn't have a whole lot of depth until he confesses his love to Kitty, and they don't have enough time to get married before he's shipped off to Europe. So they have this beautiful one night together before he's deployed, and it was really lovely, but also realistic, because they're in this sort of ugly tavern, and he does things. This is when March's character Alan really starts to come alive and has a beautiful soul, because he starts to do things like he says let's imagine that we've been married for many years together. Let's forget all our problems. We're married, and this is just a wonderful, beautiful night together, just a normal night. And he goes down to the tavern, he buys he gets some flowers that are at the bar, and he gets them a nice chicken meal, and he brings it up, and they're trying to ignore the fact that he's about to be deployed. And it was really just a beautiful scene, in my opinion. And they stayed up all night together, fully dressed, of course. They didn't do anything back then. But they just stayed up all night together talking and hearing the sounds of war, really. They hear planes and everything. And then we cut scene to when Alan is in the trenches in Europe, and he's of course with Gerald, who's a higher in command, and there's a little bit of drama between them. And spoiler alert, we think that Alan dies in action, and I wasn't sure if he was dead or not. And then I thought the trenches scene was really powerful as well. And we cut scene to where Alan, he's in some sort of hospital, and the settings, I will note, are really good in this movie. The trenches were good. The hospital was really good. But we cut scene to this hospital for the disabled and the wounded, and we learn, and it's so sad, that Alan has gone blind. And this begins my favorite part of the entire movie, because this is when you really start feeling the emotion in here. This is one of the best performances, I think. I always say this of Fredric March, but just watch his eyes when he's playing a blind man, because he nails it. He really nails it. And the way he moves around rooms, unsure of what's in front of him, it makes me want to watch the movie again. And the movie sort of revolves around, he doesn't want to tell Kitty. He wants Kitty to think that he's dead, because she has a good life. She's probably going to marry Herbert Marshall's character, so he doesn't want her to have to worry about taking care of a disabled person. there's a lot of parallels to Tomorrow is Forever in this movie, but this came out before Tomorrow is Forever. So anyway, and just note that the train scene when he's thinking, okay, I'm gonna go see Kitty and everything's gonna be fine. He's convinced himself, but he gets so anxious when he realizes maybe this isn't right. Maybe I shouldn't go see Kitty. And I thought that was so powerful because you can really hear his voice tremble when he's thinking and speaking about this. And then so he goes off and he lives about a couple miles from his home. Everyone still thinks he's dead. And he becomes a children's book author. And he wants to avoid Kitty at all costs. And we've all been there where we want to avoid our exes. We don't want to see them. We want to pretend that they're dead because it just brings up heartbreak to us again. And I can really see that in Fredric March's eyes and face whenever he sees or hears a mention of Kitty, he's just like his heart skipped a beat. I've been there. I know that. His heart sinks. So there's another magical realism scene where Kitty sort of starts to realize she keeps seeing signs that maybe Alan is really alive. So I just wanted to note that. And the climax of the movie, I won't give it away, but oh my gosh, this is one of the most beautiful scenes I've seen in like a classic romance. But I'm not going to give it away, but there was no music in it. It's really wonderful. I will give this movie a 3 stars. 3 stars isn't, super high, but the reason is because the story was a little sappy at points. It was a little bit predictable, but I would say the second half of the movie totally saved this movie from being like a 2.5. I have some pictures and things I want to read now. This may be difficult now that I'm holding the mic. And I have some interesting bits to talk about, some history. So this is what Samuel Goldwyn, the producer, did to sort of make Merle Oberon sort of appeal more as the all-American girl. Let's see. He saw to it that she was always dressed simply, usually in collared outfits. Makeup that would lighten her coloring and do nothing to emphasize the slant in her eyes. In the words of one director who would later work with her, Goldwyn wanted everything clean about Merle, as though she were the all-American girl. And this is what happened when the director, Sidney Franklin, learned that Leslie Howard was no longer going to be in the picture. He was pretty mad. He said, "I am to understand that you are negotiating to get Merle Oberon without Howard." Stop. I can understand Oberon with Howard, but I can't very well understand Oberon alone without Howard. And with March, I would want a girl that could give me a great performance by acting ability and experience, which makes sense because March, his acting it kind of requires a good acting as well on the other side. The sole reason I thought you were negotiating with Oberon was in order to get the other person with her. So he was pretty upset about the fact that Leslie Howard was not going to be in the movie any longer. But honestly, I'm so glad. I love Leslie Howard, but March was really perfect for this role. Last thought I'll leave you with on this movie is this is one of those sort of gems that will leave you thinking about the movie a lot, because days after watching this movie, I'm still thinking about it. So keep that in mind and be sure to watch it. Have a good one, everyone.